Okay, well, I see we're now at 2 o'clock and we've got about 12 people hanging out here. Hopefully we get a few more in too. And Mike has already posted some fake data over in chat for us to play with. This is going to be fun. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Cliff and get started with our next session.
Okay, yeah, we'll see how this goes. So there is Mike did post a set of fake data, which is actually I think the same data that I had uploaded, or one of the ones I had uploaded. And I'm going to give people the opportunity, if they want to, to try to upload the data themselves and go through that process. Now, one thing that would be necessary in order for you to do that is that you would have to join or become a member. And so what I'm going to do here is, if you remember, this is the site was, and actually you could do it to either one. There are 2 test sites that I have. One is called Cliff Test 1 and the other is called Cliff Test 2. And so you would first, if you wanted to try to upload data to those sites using that data, you'd first, of course, have to become a member of those sites. And so and what I'll do is, actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my screen here. I got to find the right one. And so as a reminder, to become a member of this site, you could either come down to my account and go to the bulk join project and then scroll down to find a project and save it that way. Or you can go to the actual project, use your search capability and, and say, okay, say, Cliff Test 1, Mike said, or Test 2, it doesn't matter. I think I have both sample points named the same. And then you come over to membership. And of course, I'm already membership, but there's a place where it says, to join the project. So if you want to try to upload data, that's something as part of the session, or even later on today or whatever, or the weekend, you'd have to do that. And then I would actually have to approve you joining the membership. So that's one thing. And so if you want to do that, yeah, you can go ahead and start joining, and it won't take me very long to do that. I did want to say something that I thought about during one of the breaks, and that is Eric had asked a question about dealing with particularly flow measurements associated with the siphon-based treatment systems, which is an issue that we talked about. And it's also an issue with any of these auto flusher type systems. One thought that I had in turn, now this doesn't necessarily apply to the siphon-based systems, because those the way those siphon-based systems work is that the water flows into the vertical flow pond, and it starts to fill the pond, and then once it reaches a certain water level within the pond, the siphon kicks on and it flushes the system. And so the flushing frequency really depends upon the flow rate coming into the system. However, the solar powered systems, which generally are using the smart drain, agri-drain boxes, they have a computer system tied to them, and those are set on a schedule. And so you actually program when you flush. And most people that I know that have this either do it set to flush weekly or to flush daily. And if you are using a system like that, what I would recommend is that when your system flushes and when it doesn't, and then to plan your sampling appropriately. Now, it may take you a few times going out there and getting a feel for how that affects your flow. But you could certainly, in those systems too, sometimes, if they're only flowing, if they only flush once a week, they do sort of get into a normal flow pattern. And so in those situations, you could actually get out there and sample, let's say it flush, you have it to flush every Saturday. You could certainly get out there on Thursday or Friday, and you'd probably have a fairly decent monitoring event. Or you could set it up so okay, it flushes at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and so you might be able to time it that way. The siphon systems are just those are just going to be really difficult to get a good flow. Okay, so what I am going to do is I am going to go in there, and I know I've gotten some messages that people have gone in to join, and so I'm gonna come in here and approve people. Oh, those were actually, what? I take that back. Those are people who are signing up to be members of Datashed currently. Let's see here. I can't actually see.
Just wanted to ask if everybody was able to get that data. I posted it in 2 different places. I actually put it in the Zoom chat here, even though we're kind of discouraging folks to talk through this whole conference. I thought it might actually come up, but because a lot of people are joining through Whova, I don't know if that's something that is even possible to download through Whova. So then I also posted a link over in the chat, which is the Google Drive link. And it should be shared for anybody who has that link. You should be able to download that.
The one here in Zoom chat work.
For you, because you joined through Zoom chat. But for Bobby, for instance, you've been joining through Whova.
Yeah, I downloaded it through Whova and it came down very quickly.
Through Whova, okay.
Yeah.
It's like I told Cliff, I wanted this to kind of be an experiment that in case we use this again, we know kind of the boundaries of what we can do as far as sending files go.
Okay, so while we're kind of doing that, yeah, you can follow Mike's link and stuff to get that data if you want to try uploading it. Like I said, that would be for that's data for the fake Cliff, one of the Cliff test sites. So you would have to join as a member of those fake test sites to be able to try to upload data. You don't have to try and do that. So what I would like to do is, while we can give people a chance to do that if they want to or not, and go on. But what I would like to do is now kind of give it a chance for people to kind of ask additional questions in the process. So if anybody wants to ask a question, and I think there was actually a couple questions that we held on to as well.
Yeah, we held on to Bobby's question, and we might as well just let him go ahead and ask it. It's about unit measurement.
Yeah, Cliff, I was just wondering, in your Excel files, do you put in the unit, does the user put in the unit of measurements for the flow and the chemistry, or is that something already there with a conversion function for the different units? Or I'm not just sure how that goes. I see them down there, but I'm not sure if they're built in or not.
Okay, that's a really good question, and I'm glad you brought that up because I did not talk about that. Okay, so currently in that regular import, there is not a conversion, any sort of conversion process, and that is something that I would like to maybe consider seeing if we can work into it. And so it does make, Datashed does make the assumption, and it does, I believe when you're actually going through the import process, it does tell you what those parameters are in, or you could look at the reports and see what those parameters are supposed to be in. So and this does cause some problems, and you will see some of these issues sometimes when looking at data. So Datashed actually assumes, so one of the big areas where this is a problem is flow. Datashed is assuming that all of that data is in gallons per minute. And so there's certainly data out there, I know, and I come across it, or at least I'm assuming, where the person entered in, like CFS or something like that. And so I do need to make a better effort at telling people that and putting that in there, or being able to give people the ability to enter in something. And as a matter of fact, excuse me, I'm just going to write myself a note because that is something that I really do want to address, is related to those sorts of issues. Same thing. Same thing. Now, this is not generally as much of a problem, but let's say with metal concentrations, Datashed is assuming that it's milligrams per liter, which for most of the time, for most labs, for your basic, or at least your private labs, they are providing things like iron, aluminum, and manganese as milligrams per liter. Now, the DEP lab does usually put that as micrograms per liter.
Right.
So for the sysimport tool, at least the old version, like I said, we don't quite have the new version finished yet, but the old version, there was, we knew that the DEP's data was always in micrograms per liter. So in that import tool, we had Datashed automatically correct for that. But we don't have it built in that you would select, that your data is in milligrams per liter or micrograms per liter, and that is something that we should do. And every once in a while, that question comes up, and I stumble across something, and I'm like, yeah, we should do something about that. I'm not sure how that process would work, and how difficult that would be, because that does provide another sort of layer of difficulty, but I think we could do that.
Yeah, Cliff, Mike and I have a very easy convert tool that we use that has a bunch of different parameters in it for flow and chemistry and the like, that we use for when we developed our Excel database file conversions, that maybe you want to take a look at. So it's from a particular university. I think Mike grabbed it, and we've used it for a number of years now. And it does that type of conversion just by putting in your number to get it from, CFS to GPM or whatever parameter and unit you want to have it in. It might be something to consider, because your load-ins will be way off if you're moving your decimal points one way or the other, two or three spots, right?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that's actually something I think I did put into the help section.
It's called Convert 5.0.
Yeah.
I've given it to you before.
Yeah, there's a variety of those conversion type things that are out there. And I think I had that.
For now, though, you guys would you would have to correct that before you upload it, correct?
Yeah. Currently the way it is. And so, like, actually in the tutorials, for preparing water data for upload. Can you see that? Do I have that set up? Am I on the right page?
No.
No, okay. Hold on, let me, oh no, I'm on the,
There you go.
okay. So under the help section, I'm preparing water data for upload. I do have some of those sorts of things where I tell people, like down here that, flow measurements need to be uploaded as gallons per minute. Most metals, iron, manganese, aluminum should be uploaded as milligrams per liter. So I do have some things like that in the directions there.
Ooh, and I saw Celsius you use instead of Fahrenheit for temperature.
Yes. And so, but I agree that there really should be ideally some sort of process in the upload feature where you could actually select what version you have it, and then Datashed would figure it out and convert it on its own. That would be the ideal. I don't know how doable that is. I would imagine it's possible. How involved the programming would be, and is another issue. Let's see.
If you want to ask a question, you can unmute yourself and or play your video and ask the expert. Oh, there's a couple people that are going to try it. Cool. So for those of you, let's see, who were the people that you just approved? Tim.
I did so fast, I didn't even know. Yeah,
I think it was Tim, Abby, and someone else, but now he's given you permission to go ahead and try to upload that data file. So Cliff, if you want to run through that really quick one more time, how they do that.
Sure. Let me switch over to the other. Okay, so the way this would work, and I believe I think we already gave them as the CSV file, I believe. Did we not?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so you don't have to worry about trying to save it as a CSV. It's already there. And so your process would be to come over to the data tab here and select upload CSV data. Then,
and again, make sure that you're in Cliff Test 1 or Cliff Test 2.
Yes, you could use either one. They both, I think I've used the same sample point name, and then actually you'd be able to change anyways because this is just fake data. It's a fake project, and actually probably I don't know that I'll delete it today because the one programmer was looking at an issue that I found. And so, but within, let's say, the next week, I'm going to end up deleting those projects anyways out of Datashed. So you would have to either click here and like choose the file and go through your menu there and find it, or you can just drag and drop it into the choose file. And you'll see here, it says it renamed it because I've uploaded several of these, and so it'll probably come up with another name for it, which is fine. And so then you just submit the CSV. And now you're ready to map the data. And you'll see in the pink area where this pink box is kind of indicating what they call illegal values. So these are things that will need to be fixed in order to actually finish the upload process. And so But what I usually do is I just start from the side, from the left-hand side, and work my way to the right, and fix anything that I need to go as I go along. So it's already identified that this is the sample point ID, and it's already matched, and it's correctly matched those files. The sample date has already figured that out. However, these are what's wrong. And in this case, even though it tells you up here that it needs to be MMDD, and the reason that it won't allow, the problem there actually is that in this case is it's actually the year. It doesn't have to be 08, 02. Really all that needs to be is the 2019. That's the part that that's throwing it off. So then you will then you need to fix who this is the sampler field, sampler person, and then here this is the flow method, which is method of flow, and that is a field version of parameter. And now the flow, which it figured this out, and that is a field parameter. And field pH, it's figured it out. Lab pH, it's figured it out. Conductivity, which is specific conductance. And in this case, it was a lab measurement. And field temperature. And this is field alkalinity and lab alkalinity and lab acidity, lab total iron, lab total manganese, aluminum it never gets.
Oh, that was a question that I had for you. I noticed that you have the less than arrows there. So it will take that parameter now?
It will, yes, it will.
Okay.
It will accept it, and it will, and I believe it enters it in. But in terms of, and actually, I need to go back and test myself and do the test of calculations. Before we went live, it was working, and I want to make sure that with some of the changes we made, it still works. But it's supposed to actually then, statistically, it's supposed to treat it like it's 0. And so what I wanted it to do is show that it is below detection limit, and I wanted to be able to show what that actual detection limit is. But statistically, I wanted it to be treated like a 0, even though that's not truly correct. You have to make some sort of assumption for it to be included in the statistics, at least the way the website stuff works. So that's why we do it that way, because to assume that, and it's just a hard part of dealing with statistics with these types of numbers, is that you don't want to assume that it's 0.04 in your statistics, because that's definitely not correct. It's less than that. But saying that 0 is kind of incorrect as well. And some people like to, although it's incorrect, some people will take half the value so that they would actually use 0.02 as the value, but that's obviously not correct either. However, for our purposes, those of us who are interested in this, in reality, it does not matter to us whether it's 0.04 or 0.02. We're happy it's less than 0.04.
Right.
I mean, we're happy if it's less than 0.5. So
as long as you do it consistently and you explain your methods.
Yeah, and I believe in the and I believe it's still there. We have notes like in the water quality report. There's a little section of notes below each sample point below the table, and it should explain that in there. I should probably try to, if I don't have it, I should probably explain that somewhere else as well.
And Cliff, when you're done here, there's a gentleman, Donald Robb. He didn't even have an account, and he was making one, I guess, when we were chatting maybe 10 minutes ago. So he might be there for you to approve.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let me pull that up, and I will. Yes. And I will approve him.
And then he has to ask to join the Cliff test.
Okay, so he is approved member now, so he should be able to get in, and then I will check. Let me go back.
I'm sorry I stopped you there, but you were just about at the end. And so for those of you who were following along with adding in that data before we had the discussion about aluminum and the below detection limits and all that, if you were to submit that data, Cliff, then it would show up.
Yep, and then yeah, you just hit the submit button, and then assuming that there are it detects no errors, which if you use that data set that we provided, I don't think that one had any errors in it. I don't think. So yeah, you just hit submit, and then it should tell you that it went through.
And we'll probably see duplicates then.
Yep, and then there'll probably be a bunch of duplicates, which may throw Datashed off a little bit, but like I said, that's fine for it's a fake project.
So again, was there anybody that wanted to, this is set up a little bit different. This meeting is set up just a little bit different to allow for people to participate through video and through voice instead of just chat. So if anybody wanted to, ask a question directly of Cliff, or, wanted to share your screen if you're having a problem, he could probably help you work through that. That's what this session was all about, kind of a little bit of a tutoring, a little bit of us assigning you some homework and seeing if you could work through it. I think everybody is shy.
Yeah, and that's absolutely fine. And like I said, I questioned how well we'd be able to even accomplish it, as particularly like I know, like I know some people, at least yesterday or during the conference, were watching the whole conference through their phone. And so that would make certain things, that would certainly be difficult to be able to look at Datashed and then try, doing things. Or even if you're on a laptop or a desktop with one screen, it may be difficult to be trying to watch this and then up and trying to look at stuff on Datashed. And some people may feel comfortable already with it, particularly people that have used Datashed in the past. It is a fairly similar process. I think it's an improved process for the most part over the previous version. Certain things are certainly easier. There's less steps. One thing about Datashed is, it's always going to probably be a work in progress to some degree. There's always going to be improvements we're going to want to make. And unfortunately, the way websites seem to go and anything that's complex like this, you make one change to something or you update the software, there's potential for it to kind of revert certain things or change things on its own, causing bugs. And so then, we have to work through those things, which can be frustrating at times. And even things that you knew that were working will just suddenly change, and sometimes it's not certain why they change. And then and then you're trying to do a demonstration and it doesn't work. So yeah, always feel free to contact me with any problems, bugs, things that need updated, permissions, that sort of thing.
Hey, Cliff, I have a quick question. Are there notifications that go out at all if you have multiple people from, let's say, a watershed group that are entering in data, so that if there's a case of duplication of data, or just to inform the other people that might be from a different area, maybe, or as they're getting into it, to avoid any duplication? Does this send any notifications out?
There are at least some sorts of notifications. I haven't. I do have, at least as a vision, of that, like that when data would be uploaded, or if there was an attempt to delete data, or if data was deleted, that certain people would receive messages. I'm not so sure how all of that is functioning and whether or not that's been set up. However, it is set up that if you are listed as the site administrator, the project administrator, and someone joins, that you will receive the message that they are trying to join and become a member. So there is an sort of like an email notification system within the website. I think we could potentially improve upon that. And again, like I said, I had this sort of vision of that, all that's what you're kind of talking about, to kind of notify people, like when change, the idea with this, it would let members know when changes have been made. Now, the problem with that whole thing with the notification is that if you're a member of a lot of groups, or a lot of projects, there's the potential to get a lot of notifications. And I know I've had people, matter of fact, Denise, because Denise and Gavin there for a while had done a bunch of work on Datashed, and I had them as administrators, project administrators, to be able to go in and identify things. And she's emailed me, I think, a couple times now saying, hey, I'm getting all these notifications for this project or that project, and that was related to her being set up as a project administrator. I have been trying to go through and take her off as a project administrator on a lot of those projects, but she probably still gets at least some, because I certainly didn't go through each project.
Hey Cliff, I have a question for you.
Okay.
I was just, now that you gave me my permissions, I was just trying to update the auto discharge project.
Okay.
And for the project designer organization, the original project was designed by Ritu Associates, which I was previously with, and now I'm with Alfred Benish and Company doing the design for the updated system that's going to be built starting next spring. So I tried to put in Ritu Associates / Alfred Benish Company in there, but it doesn't like it. It says there are no content items matching Ritu Associates, Alfred Benish and Company.
Okay, yeah, that would be correct. Yeah, this is starting to get into that issue, that same sort of issue I think we talked about earlier, that I'm not really even sure how is the best way of approaching it.
Right.
Because yeah, you have an original designer who designed a system, and now you have a new consultant who is redesigning that treatment system.
Right, and it kind of also falls into like construction year, because like the original system was constructed in 2005 and now it's going to be reconstructed in 2022. So it's like, how do you put that in besides putting it in the description?
Yes. And so I would definitely recommend doing, at least for now, putting that into the description. And what I'm probably going to end up doing is creating some additional fields.
Okay.
So I'm probably going to do is have a field that's like sort of like original construction date, and then have a field for latest rehab date or something like that.
Yeah.
And with designer, what I don't know that we're going to change that. But I would probably do is put in the current designer, and then maybe in the description explain that the original design, and that's where that description really becomes valuable, because it can be sort of like the history of the site. And so you could say, hey, this system was originally built in 2000, designed by so and so, and then it was redesigned and reconstructed on this this year, and and so you can kind of have that sort of narrative description. The other option is to have a document, but I really like having it in the description. And yeah, and where it gets really tricky and is, when you're talking about like what we talked about earlier is, that treatment technologies are now different, or and the one that really gets me is what to do about sample points, because
yeah, the inflow and the outflow, like when we reconstruct a system, the inflow and the outflow usually doesn't change, but if there's points in the middle of the system, they may change.
yeah. Yeah, and then like even things like, just to give you a personal example, is we had at one of our treatment systems, there was actually an existing settling pond that the water, that as a raw water was flowing out of, and that was going into the stream, and we had monitored that for a long time. And it's not the actual discharge that we were, it goes in the treatment system, but it was just a separate monitoring point. But we incorporated that pond into the design, and it was actually the final effluent of the treatment system. And so we had the original data set, let's call that sample point X, and then we built a treatment system. And so it's using that as the final effluent. And so, but it has all that old data there. So what I actually did is I created a sample point that was called X, and then parentheses old, and then created a new X, and then and so like that kind of stuff does get tricky, and it's not something we had thought about originally, and it's just a matter of trying to figure out how to preserve, because one of the things I want to do is I do want to preserve sort of the history of these things, and for potential use, and somehow, I don't want to delete data, that's just
right, kind of a lessons learned type thing.
Yeah,
or
so
somebody needs it for research type purposes.
Yes. And so, trying to accomplish all that and think about all that is definitely getting tricky.
Yeah.
Let me check. Oh yeah, whoops. I'll approve. I should probably check. I should probably check to see if anybody else created an account.
It still doesn't like Alfred Benish and Company.
No, oh yeah. So I did kind of ignore that part of your question. So to get back to that, that is one of those things where it has to be a specific, you can't just go in there and just add it. So you actually have to kind of select it from the existing menu of organizations. And so when you probably, if you start typing in an organization, if that organization is within Datashed, it will show up. And you can select it. If you try to put in an organization, like if I just put in there Cliff Company, it's not going to like that. I would have to go under organizations and create a new organization first. So like if your current company is not in that organization list, then you'll have to actually go in and do that.
I guess I'm gonna have to do that then.
Yeah, and if it doesn't allow you to do that, or you run it, I may have to go in and create that. But and just let me know, and I'll do that. I gotta let.
I've got a question that's probably directly related in some ways to that, because I created the organization for Meshannon Creek Watershed before lunch and had no trouble at all doing that. And then I got under the details just now for the Chiller Theater SEEPs, and there was no organization assigned. I was able to assign us to it, but I had to fill out every box. It did not bring us up automatically at all. It was basically filling out every field that I had to field to create us the first time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you're talking about on the project. And yeah, that is a current bug that does need to be addressed. And I wasn't actually expecting it to be as I wasn't thinking about it being as important as I guess it is. And so yeah, the way that's supposed to work, when you're adding an organization as sort of like a project partner that's a part of the organization, that's supposed to be like, you know, selecting it as almost like a drop-down menu, or you just type it in and it pops up, and not, you know, where it's currently the way that page is sort of designed currently. I think the programmers may have misunderstood, and or it's a bug. I'm not sure, one of the two. And I just realized this recently, is yeah, that it's treating it like you're creating a new organization as opposed to selecting an organization. And so yeah, that needs to be addressed, if I'm making any sense.
Okay, do we have some more questions? Go ahead and unmute yourself if you do. I did see Tim K9 pop in there with his video real quickly. So just wanted to make sure we got his question answered from before.
Yes, if you can hear me, you did answer my question from before.
Great.
Good.
It seems like when I turn my video on, I lose the voice, so I turned it back off.
Oh, okay. Okay, any other questions from anyone?
I don't know, Cliff, I think you did a great job on this, you know, explaining everything. That's why nobody has any questions.
Yeah.
Either that or totally confused them.
That too.
Yeah, I think this went fairly well. And this is definitely going to be something I'm going to be considering for the future. I can't remember if I've talked, I know I was talking to at least Mike about this earlier, is that when I've done these trainings in the past, it's been difficult for some people to attend them because either the distance that they had, or the fact that it was an all-day event. You know, so you know, you know, so you know, I would have to. I only had so much time, and so I would schedule these kind of around the state. But you know, there were people that would, you know, be traveling a couple hours just to get to the site where we were having the training, and then it'd be all day, and then they'd have to drive, you know, an hour or 2 hours home, and it was all day. And you know, some people could only do trainings on the weekend, or some people were only willing to do training during a regular work day, and you're trying to work all that out. And so I think and I thought about, you know, years ago, I even thought about, you know, maybe we could do some sort of webinar, but I wasn't exactly sure how you even go about doing that. But you know, with COVID and everybody doing the Zoom meetings, now it seems so simple. Relatively simple. And so I think I'm going to consider keeping this sort of format for the future. And then I also have I have sort of the ability, if I want to, you know, like I think I talked about, is that, you know, I could do these, you know, I don't even have to do it all in one day. I could do, you know, like 1 hour each night for a week, or, you know, do it an hour for, you know, twice a week for a couple weeks, or one night a week for, you know, plus the ability to record them, have them available on, you know, websites and stuff that people could just watch them. So I think there's a lot more flexibility with doing these trainings and making it easier for people to see them, you know. And then if I wanted, I could even just say, hey, watch these videos And then, and then we'll have a session like this where, people just ask questions. So that's an option as well. Yeah, so I'm not sure if people who wanted to were able to, let me make sure that I want to check. I keep trying to check the pending memberships. Okay, no pending memberships there, and everybody who signed up is active.
Hey, Cliff, I
Cliff,
noticed
did
in,
you see the one from Eric Rosen?
Excuse
I'm
me?
sorry. Did you see the request for Eric Rosen grant
I did, yes.
for membership?
Eric, I did get a membership request to join Datashed. And as far as I know, if he applied for a project, I think I either approved it already. Yeah, currently I don't have any pending membership requests.
Yeah, we have
Certainly,
about
if anybody has any problems or, just let me know. Like I said, sometimes in terms of these membership requests, occasionally they go to different folders, even though I've tried to make it very clear to my email that these are actual, that they're not spam and that they are actual, they still sometimes will go to my spam folder. Matter of fact, now that you're saying that, I'm going to go down and check my spam folder. Nope, I don't have anything in my spam folder, and I don't have anything. Whoops, it helps to. Problem with having too many email addresses is is making sure you check the right email address. Let me go back down. So now, yeah, I don't have anything else.
techie problems, right, Cliff?
Yeah, there's always things, and what's weird too, and I think I mentioned this earlier too, is that the notification sort of email system is it's a separate program that's actually partly outside of Datashed. And so, and occasionally it somehow has errors or messes up and it doesn't even send the email out. I think we fixed a lot of the problems that were causing that, but it still occasionally happens. So yeah, always, if you don't hear from me, if you do sign up for something and you're like, oh, that Cliff, he never responded. Well, just check in with me. I mean, sometimes it does take me a few days to getting around to something like that. But certainly if you haven't heard from me within a few days to a week, definitely email me and check in with me, because it's certainly possible that the email system screwed up and didn't send me the notification in the first place, or it did go to spam or something. But I'm trying to get in a better habit of checking my spam email because things do go there that don't make sense. But
we still have about 10 minutes left of this session. So if anybody has questions, go ahead and ask. Is it
Cliff, I just wanted to say, I think we're light years ahead of many of the other states across Appalachia in terms of the gathering of this type of information. We've reached out to a number of states and talked to them up and down the Appalachian Mountains, and they don't have something like this, and some of them don't have nearly as many groups advocating and doing the kind of field work that we're seeing be done and historically has been done in Pennsylvania. And I think that this is definitely a showcase model, even with having to go through the updates and the glitches and stuff that you've been experiencing and we've helped kind of resolve over the years. We're far along from what many other states are right now. And this is something that really other groups and other states should be really keeping an eye out for, because they're not, they just don't have the capabilities, or even in some places the monitoring and volunteer levels that I think we have here in our community doing this type of work. So, I mean, kudos to you and all the partners on this, because it's robust, and it's putting out numbers and putting out things that we could use to keep this in front of our legislators and our you know, politicians when it comes to some of these numbers. So the more data we get in it, that's better. The better we can get data out of it, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. Pennsylvania does seem to be sort of a leader in this whole area of abandoned mine reclamation. Maybe that's because of how bad our problem is. But yeah, I mean, like you were saying, that a lot of the states that do have AML problems, you know, they don't have the level of involvement in watershed groups like we do. West Virginia does have watershed groups for sure, and they are, I think, a little bit more similar to us. You know, but even like you know, from some of the, you know, sort of national and international you know, things that I've attended, you know, and you know, people do look towards Pennsylvania. I think, at least I get that impression. You know, particularly like passive treatment. You know, we have a lot of passive treatment systems that have been put in place in Pennsylvania. I have been in discussion with some groups who would like to utilize Datashed. And I actually did put in a grant to OSM. I doubt it will get funded, but that would basically provide for the expansion of Datashed to be used by other states. And there's a lot of already stuff that's in Datashed that would be easily able to be adapted. But then there are certain issues that, you know, in terms of reporting and compiling data and stuff, that I would want to make sure that, you know, you know, states could see their individual numbers and that sort of thing. That could potentially present a whole lot of other hassles. But I do have mixed feelings about it, but I do feel like it could be a useful tool to other states.
We heard on a call this morning that Montana had just constructed its very first passive treatment system through a nonprofit organization.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I've heard of too many passive treatment systems in Montana. You know, of course, their issues are different. You know, and, out west, a lot of times the AMD is not as big of an issue as other things. You know, it's so dry, and but they definitely do have discharges out there too. So
Yeah, they call it acid rock drainage.
ARD.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, the different names. Yeah, yeah, that goes beyond just even treatment components. But yeah, AMD, and some people call it coal mining drainage. Some people call it MIW, mining influenced waters. Yeah, the ARD. So yeah, everyone has their own name for things, which makes it some other complications.
Just one quick note, Mike Hewitt posted a poll over on Whova for today's sessions. Just a one-word poll. How familiar are you now with Datashed? So if everyone would participate in that, and it would give Cliff a little bit of feedback.
Also, I think at the end of this session, you'll have the ability to quote unquote rate the session. And that'll open up a feedback where, you know, it would help Cliff know what's helpful and you know, how good everybody understands, you know, how to fill out the website now. So that would be very helpful as well to get your feedback on that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's, I think, that comment section there that, yeah, anything you want to put in there, good or bad, about the session and how it went for you, and or about Datashed itself, would be helpful to me. It is important to me that we continue to improve Datashed, that we make it as easy as possible for people to use. I definitely want to address people's concerns. So yeah, always, feel free to enter it there, or feel free to, email me, to let me know of anything that's not working, or a feature that you want to see, that's not there, or problems. Like I said, it's important to me that we keep improving Datashed. We kind of got behind the ball there for a while because we ran into the problem of the updates of Drupal, and having to update from Drupal 6 to Drupal 8 was such a huge deal, and it used up so much of my funding that from the grant that I was not anticipating it being such a big deal. And so it really limited, like, even though it's in some ways a step forward, and in other ways, I feel like we took a major step backwards in terms of certain features, some of which I didn't even talk about, that currently don't exist, that were on the previous version, because we just weren't able to include it or even try to develop it. But so I'm really optimistic about going into the future, and also the way Drupal seems to be moving. That they're updating it from one version to the next. Like I said, we just updated, as part of that grant, we had updated to Drupal 8, and just recently we upgraded to Drupal 9, actually 9.2, and it was a much easier update. I had actually put a fair amount of money into the update for this grant, knowing that it was coming up, and I don't even think we used half of it. And so actually, I'm hoping that we'll maybe even have money when Drupal 10 comes around. If the grant's still active, we might be able to. So I'm hopeful in the future that if we stay up with it, that we'll be able to make these jumps easier, and then be able to work on features instead of worrying about all the background stuff that no one even that most people don't have to deal with.
Good.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Cliff. And thank everyone else for hanging around and learning how to do this. And obviously, you can always reach out to Cliff in other ways. You can get him on the phone and email if you have additional questions. So we look forward to the future enrollment or outroll, or whatever, however you say that, of the new pieces that'll come up, in the future. So.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you all for attending, and thanks to the conference for including me and allowing me to do the training as part of the conference. So that's been great.
Okay.
Yeah, good job, Cliff.
Yeah. Thank
Thanks
you.
again.
All right. Take care. We'll see everybody later.
See ya.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
weekend.
Bye.
You too.